Everybody doing?
Good.
How you guys
Doing good. Hanging in there.
Fantastic. Better if offices were outdoors, though.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so I'll start off. Obviously want to start off by thanking our scouts just for all their hard work and dedication throughout this process. It's a lot of hours on the road for them, away from their families, in hotels. So I wanted to just, thank them for that, sacrifice and dedication. I think me and Dave are obviously really excited about the direction that we're headed as an organization, as a team. The communication and the alignment that myself, Coach Canales, the scouts, the coaches, the training staff, sports science, it's just been awesome. It's been a lot of fun. So we're really excited about the future. I feel we addressed a lot of needs in free agency, and I think that will, set us up nicely during the draft to, allow us to draft the best player available, and just take really good football players that fit what we want from a schematic standpoint, from a culture standpoint, and all those things we talked about in our pressers. So we're really excited. Drafts, I wish it was here tomorrow, but it's not. We got to wait another week. So really excited for that, and pass it off to Dave.
Yeah, it's been such a it's really just been fun doing this with Dan. Really take it back to the Senior Bowl, just flying out there together, having dinners, just talking about the roster. At that point, we were still trying to put a staff together and all that, but I just think back to where we are right now, just the hours, the time, the connection, the conversations. And I think one of the coolest things that I saw is as we worked through free agency, coming out of the other side of it with this great feeling like, all right, hey, this takes some pressure off of, gosh, we got to meet all these needs through the draft. Now we get to really just hone in and focus on the guys that are really Panther fit. I've heard that a lot in our building just as we've been talking about guys. And just going across, just working the hallways, really for me is just trying to be the bridge with the coaching staff, bringing information from the coaching staff to Dan, the two of us talking through it, then him collecting all the information of all the scouts that have been, just like you heard, just on the road, just grinding and doing, this is their high peak season right now, So, and I think for me, just taking a step back, he thanked the scouts and for me too, just the appreciation I have for, this is my second offseason being away from my family, where they're still in Tampa, and we're going back and forth to connect, and just thinking about the scouts being on the road and having to just connect with all their homes, and they're doing it. They love it. They're in the building, and we're doing that connection. And while all that's been happening, we're making a new playbook offensively. We're changing logos. We're changing colors on our PowerPoints, things that we've been working on for years, going back and forth, talking about scheme, really trying to improve scheme defensively. It's been fantastic to just hear the conversations, hear the higher level conversations happening with some of the players we brought in and the continuity from our defensive staff. And then to see the offensive guys, because we have a collection of guys from Tampa, Seattle, a couple guys that I've known for years, coming together, working through some things. So I feel really grateful to be in a building where it just feels like we're all pulling in the same direction. And I wanted to just say that first and foremost. And I think we're ready to take some questions now.
Dan, you've been here and you were in the room last year. How have you approached this process differently, knowing you're the guy with the final say?
Yeah, I think obviously having final say, it's about collecting everybody's opinions, filtering that, and then making the best decision for the Carolina Panthers. I think from a process standpoint, I think coming up the ranks, you're always, thinking to yourself, okay, how would I do this? And obviously I have my own methods. We've had some really cool studies amongst the scouts, us just talking through guys, comparing guys, placing guys on the board. So, it's really been a collaborative effort. Scouts have done a great job with all the background, just kind of getting to know all these guys. So, that's really what it's all about. You watch the tape, but then how are we going to best know this player? So, who's going to be coming in our building when and if we draft them next week? So, through this process, it's been thorough, and I've been really happy with it.
With that said, how do you weigh maybe I guess we've talked about the dog mentality versus maybe traits or technique? If a guy doesn't have great speed, but he has that will to, or if he doesn't have great technique, but you see a talent base there, how much do you weigh that when you guys go into getting that Panthers fit, I guess?
Yeah, I think, when me and Dave were talking about, like, the type of player that we want, those passionate, hungry, the dog mentality, passion for the game, love of the game, that's kind of what we're looking for. Measurable-wise, obviously, we want guys with height, length, speed, all those type of traits, but at the same time, if they don't have that dog mentality, they don't have that passion for the game, they're not going to be able to reach their full potential. So we really got to filter those guys out and be thorough with everything we do, and I've been happy with how we've done that.
The combine, you mentioned getting playmakers for Bryce. Do you think you've done enough of that, and I'd like to hear it from both of you. Do you think that's something you're going to address again in the draft?
I think it's about just not getting playmakers for Bryce. It's about getting playmakers for our team. For our organization, who's best going to fit our team, who's going to make plays, who's going to take the ball away on the defensive side of the ball, who's going to put the ball in the end zone on the offensive side of the ball. So for us, I think it's about bringing playmakers in here, whether it's, again, taking away the ball on defense or putting the ball in the end zone on offense. That's what we're looking for. And then them having that passion for the game, that hungry mentality, that dog mentality, and that's what we're looking for.
Dan, going off of that, Dave mentioned how he was satisfied with the free agency so far and it made him feel less pressured for the draft. Do you share that sentiment?
Yeah, I feel the same way, and we talked about that. I think we were really happy how free agency played out. There was a few guys here and there that, maybe we missed out on that we were targeting, but it really came together well for us. We're really happy how it ended, and we're excited about the future.
Man, you enter this draft thinking, hey, we might trade into the first round, or hey, we better off trading back and picking up more picks. Any philosophy or feeling for where you might be headed?
Yeah, I think sitting at 33, obviously, you have 32 teams ahead of you, so we really got to see how it plays out. I'm not going to box myself into any hey, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. Ideally, though, if we're sitting there and there's a really good player, we'll take them. Trading up, those are discussions that we still have to have. So, I think everything's on the table right now. I don't want to box us in right now.
You talked about all the new that's coming, new playbook and all that sort of new players. How do you what's job one when you're trying to build cohesion and chemistry with a largely new roster?
Yeah, communication's number one. So definitely, I think the coolest part about my role now, as the head coach, of course, just having a heavy offensive background, but I get to be in the special teams meetings, the defensive meetings. It's I seriously feel like I'm at a coaching convention where I'm in the back just taking notes from all these experts. I get to I was a part of my first pass rush meeting ever, with Todd Wash. He did a fantastic job with the outside linebackers and the interior defensive linemen, talking about stunts and all that stuff. So I guess the reason I'm saying that is I've seen some just really great continuity, familiarity. You fill in those rooms, there's already chemistry with the coaches and the players, the guys that are in there. So it's just, that's been great because you can see, wow, this is a really cool thing to build on right here, this connectedness. Offensively, it's about just creating the same language. What do we call this concept? What do we call these types of runs? Running back. Your aiming point is, and you hear the whole room say, outside leg of the tackle. So we're starting to kind of drill in some of that. It feels a little bit clunkier on the offensive side, but there is an excitement We've gotten some good feedback from the guys just in terms of the way that we're just taking it progressively, just in chunks, and giving it to them in a digestible form so that we can master one part before we go to the next. So I think long way to answer your question is it starts with the communication, because I believe if we can speak the same language, then we can build something quicker.
If I could follow just on the feedback aspect, taking that for the players, how do you weigh being the head coach, the guy, and taking those kind of notes from the players?
I'm trying to create a place that's great to work at, a place where people get excited to come in, excited to sit in these meeting rooms. It's entertaining, it's informative, but it's not too much. And just in general, it feels personal. So just trying to make sure I position myself in those high traffic places in the building and just make that one touch a day if I can. Just say the guy's name. I was about 85-90% on the first day, even off of just going off the headshots. These guys look different, you know. When you get to see LeBron in person, he's ginormous, you know. It's like I see this just face, you know, on his shot. So just taking in all of that, but just saying a name, if it's a handshake, if it's a pound, oh, this guy wants a hug, it's bringing in for a hug, you know, whatever that touch is, just trying to create that kind of environment here, that this is a place where they feel safe, they can come and just do their job.
Dave, go ahead.
You guys have obviously made fortifying that offensive line a priority.
Yeah.
Right now, I think Austin Corbett is slated to be center, coming off an injury. How do you weigh that heading into the draft?
Oh, I think it's big. I think it's really important what you just brought up, and my approach, our approach, you know, is really like, how can we challenge this roster every year? So if it's free agency or the draft, it's like, let's attack all of our spots, because we don't want any of our players to just be complacent and just be sitting there like, hey, I got this, no big deal. It's like, hey, no, we're growing. And so that's another position right there where I think this is a great opportunity for Corbs. I think this is I think for him, the way that he's wired, the person, it's a great opportunity for him, you know. And if somebody falls to us that can challenge that position in that spot, then we got to take a serious look at it, you know. And that goes across the board.
This is kind of a short two-part question, but I'll ask them one at a time. First of all, you said something about logos and colors. You don't mean the Panthers logos and colors are changing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Clarify. So you got to just picture my last 17 months, right? So I took PowerPoint presentations that were in blue and green, action green, and I turned them into pewter and red, and now we're turning them into process blue and black, and switching some logos out, just giving it that really nice touch for our guys. So that's what I meant by that.
And to go back to an earlier question, but as a offensive-minded coach, and that's where you've made your living, I guess, do you think they have enough weapons yet? You have enough weapons, or is this draft a lot about that on the offensive side of the ball?
I feel great about playing football right now with the group we have. I know that there's guys that are going to be able to help us, that can really challenge our play, elevate our play. This makes us all better. You bring in fresh blood, a rookie who's excited to go at whatever position. I just really think it turns on the whole room where everybody sits up a little bit straighter. You know, you start to feel a little more agile, and you start to dial in your notes a little bit more. So it's part of the competitive nature of this thing. And yes, I think we should still target playmakers at every position, skill-wise, on the offensive side.
As a guy who's coached quarterbacks before, where did you come in last year or in recent years with kind of the prevalence and seemingly more importance given to the S2 test and all the talk processing? And where does that fit into your evaluation of quarterbacks?
I think it's all important. Everything matters. Everything counts. I always go back and watch games. The film always brings me back. It just does. And the more you watch it, the clearer the picture becomes. And then we got to be honest as coaches. We are not the ones walking around campuses, talking to people, academic advisors, strength coaches. We're not the ones that go to these games, you know, and go to the swamp, you know, and go into these different places all around the country. That's the scouts. And that's where we have to say, okay, guys, let's evaluate this film, but now let's listen up here, this respect. And I think that's what we've seen, too, is we've been, really bringing the two sides with the coaches and the personnel side together to say, hey, guys, let's approach this with humility and with respect for what each other does. We got a really good feel for what the system is. They have a really good feel for who these guys are. And so I think that the film, starting with that, but then also taking in the full picture and all the different scores and the information that we get from the personal standpoint behind the players.
Dan, you mentioned communication earlier. What have the conversations been like with you and Dan in kind of bridging that gulf between a schematic fit and a thing a coach wants versus this talent, these measurable things that scouts look at?
Yeah, well, Dan had the great ideas, like right off the bat when we came in with the two staffs. Once our staffs were set, he said, let's bring them in here. I want you guys to talk about our schemes to my staff, to the personnel department and the guys. And so we literally went like big picture offensive philosophy. Jero comes in and talks about big picture defensive philosophy. Each position coach talked about the traits that they're looking for. And so then we were able to kind of bring that picture to life from a coaching standpoint, and really give. That was before the scouts all went out on the road and started going to all the pro days, so that was a big part of it. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that's been the big thing is just me and Dave talking and just kind of like what we want position specific. What do we want at each position? Schematically, what are we doing? What are we looking to add on offense? What are we looking at on defense? What type of players down to the small details of what type of players we want at our nickel, at our corner, at our safety, and I think that's been a big difference this year. It's just us getting together, having a really good understanding of what we're doing on offense, the type of guys we want to bring on offense, and then likewise, on the other side of the ball with EJ, being with him a year and kind of knowing that scheme, it's a lot easier to know what he wants now. And what's gonna make him the best at his job. So
Clowney was very vocal about recruiting Stephon Gilmore during his introductory presser. Where are you guys on that? Are y'all talking to him or?
Yeah, we're gonna leave the door open there. We're still gonna stay in communication, and after the draft we'll circle back and kind of see where it goes from there.
Dan, when talking to your scouts, when you're not currently existing in the first round, do you tell them to go look for guys that you think might go in the second round, or is there any difference in how you go about it?
No, we evaluate everybody. We're going to be thorough in everything we do. You never know if a guy's going to fall into the second round. We have the first pick of the second round, so we're going to be as thorough as possible, be ready for any scenario. We're going to go through every scenario, and hopefully that prepares us to do our best on draft night.
Last year, the thought process with Bryce was you guys weren't going to settle. Now you're at 33, and you do have to kind of play the value of the board and watch how things go. How much do you both have to kind of fall back on the Seattle experience where you guys were picking late in the first round pretty regularly, even Tampa last year, I guess, and kind of find the patience in the situation because they are pretty different situations?
Yeah, hopefully we're picking a lot later for years to come and not early draft picks. So I'd like to get used to that. Obviously, I'd love to have a first round pick, but hey, sitting back there, we still think we can get some really good players at 33, at 39. So yeah, we're gonna be patient, kind of see who falls, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, that 33rd pick, having almost 24 hours to A, see who's available, and B, see who wants to maybe move up. How kind of valuable is that pick?
It is. Obviously we're going to have all night, all the next day, to field calls if we want to trade that pick or to figure out which player is going to fit us best, whether it's offense or defense. So we're gonna have a lot of time to discuss and make the best decision for the Panthers.
I mentioned Dan's going to be getting a lot of calls that night.
Yeah.
Dan, you talked about being in the lead chair, in the GM chair now for the first time. Was there one piece of advice leading into the draft that you may have picked up along the way to help you prepare for the day that you are making that call? I mean, is there something you learned from Scott or elsewhere along the line?
I don't know if it's just like one thing. I mean, I've learned so many things from so many people since I've been doing this. Whether it's John Schneider out in Seattle, Brandon Bean and Joe Shane in Buffalo, and then coming here with Scott. I've learned so much from a lot of people, and I'm going to continue to keep learning and evolving and getting better at my job. So I don't think it's one thing. I think it's just about really evolving with the times and always trying to improve yourself and your process, and we're going to continue to do that.
In addressing playmakers earlier, you mentioned as an example guys who take the ball away on defense. Is that a specific area that you guys both would like to see improvement in?
Yeah, I think so. I think we would all admit, we didn't take the ball away enough last year on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that is an emphasis. Whether you read into that or not on who that is that we, are interested in, that's to be seen. But, we want to take the ball away and we want to put the ball in the end zone. So that's our emphasis.
Big picture question. Is there perhaps a position group that you would like to address in the draft and maybe develop over acquiring them in free agency? Is that like something that y'all consider when you approach the draft?
I think it's just about you approach the draft and you never know who's going to be there. Not all two boards are the same. There's 32 boards in the NFL. You think how it's going to all unravel and who's going to be there, but you just never know who's going to be there. So that's why I think we philosophically we want to put ourselves in position, which we think we did this year through free agency, and that way, we can take the best available players. So that's why we do that.
Speaking of the draft board, what each of you guys knew in your respective positions, did y'all like the work behind putting that together?
It's a lot of fun. Working with Dave's really easy. I think hopefully he would say the same thing about me, where it's, it's easy. We have fun. I think it's easy, to really do something like this and put a board together when you enjoy who you're working with, not just Dave, but all the scouts, all the coaches. It's great coming into work every day. We have a really good environment right now. We feel like our culture's changing, not only in the locker room, but also upstairs too. So we're really excited about the direction that we're moving.
You guys have to take a long-term scope at things. So, for instance, if a player is at a position that you think could be a major need in 2025 and you want to develop behind somebody who is a veteran who might be on a walk year, how much would that weigh into the way, you said you want to take the best player for you. How much do you kind of weigh that as opposed to the immediate, this is an immediate upgrade?
Yeah, I think you always got to talk about succession planning, and that's stuff that we definitely talk about. Myself along with Brant and Dave, and we sit there, we talk about the roster, not just now, in a short-term view, but we're going to look at it in the long-term view as well.
We'll do a couple more.
Dan, getting the 39th pick in the Brian Burns trade, how much did that kind of change maybe your philosophy with number 33, whether position or just openness to trading back?
Yeah, I think it all depends on what happens there at 33. But it's definitely nice looking up at that board and seeing 33 and 39 highlighted in processed blue. So I think it's going to leave us open to a lot of options in the draft and allow for a lot of flexibility if we choose to. So yeah, it's nice seeing that.
And Dave, obviously the free agency, a lot of that you even said was about putting more people around Bryce to make him successful this year. How much conversation about the draft is about that, or you truly feel across the board you could get the best player?
Yeah, I mean,
for me, I think it's not about surrounding Bryce with great players. It's about building a great team. Then Bryce can just do his part of it. That's my goal. That's my heart for this whole thing, is I want him to be able to feel like he can just come and just do his 111. If he can just do his part, if you look at the great teams he was a part of in Alabama, he won a lot of games when they had a good offense, a good defense. He did his part, and he played big in big moments, and I would love to create that here so he can just do that part of it and not make it about him the pass game will be specific to Bryce. We'll become that. You know, it'll become what he's confident with and what he can do. But I think that's kind of, hopefully, if I said that a different way, I apologize. Just kind of want to, you know, try to build a team the right way.
Dave, going into your first pre-draft process as a head coach, what is something about the timeline, the process that has stuck out to you?
I gotta watch everybody. That did big time. It's been an absolute grind, and I gotta thank Dan because, you know, as I go, it's like, hey, tell me where to go next. I've kind of been able to just like follow his lead on like, hey, you should watch this guy. Why don't you check out these guys? And so when that directs my focus, then I can kind of prioritize the windows that I have to evaluate, and then say, yeah, get to that guy, but watch these couple guys together. Tell me what you think. And so he's been really helpful that way, you know, because this, you know, while I tried to, like in the past, I would watch all the offensive guys, but then I might only watch like the top 3 defensive guys in each position, just so I kind of knew the names, you know. So yeah, that was kind of a big part of it for me for the process.
One last question.
Dan, as you were talking about the meeting with Brad and EJ and talking about the position coaches and everything and specific needs, spot by spot, is that, you know, it sounds like, for those of us that have never been in those meetings, it sounds like that's a rather unique approach to get that detailed in what you're looking for at corner and defensive tackle and linebacker, that sort of thing. Is that a unique thing? Is this because it's a major? It sounds like a major collaboration.
Yeah, it is. You know, I think that's what you need to do to be successful. Is everybody has to be on the same page. Everybody has to know what we're looking for. You know, the scouts are going to be on the road during the fall. You know, so they're going to have to know exactly, hey, we're going out and we're looking for X, Y, and Z, you know, at each position, and it just makes their path, you know, a little clearer to what they're looking for, and you know, that way they're not like, you know, looking for something that they don't even know what they're looking for. So we're going to have clear lines of communication. We're going to know exactly what we want. We'll make a little packet of it. They'll be able to take it on the road with them. You know, refer to it if they want to, whether it's the measurables, whether it's the weight, whether it's the length. So yeah, I think it's just all about being, you know, thorough in the process, and you know, ultimately building the best roster in the NFL. That's the goal.
Thank you.